Everyone in medicine kind of feels that way, and no one should actually be putting that in their personal statement. Including things like that are the type of personal statements that I feel kind of get thrown on the back burner. Hi guys, welcome back to the 20-something. I'm Macy. Today's video is going to be PA school focused, specifically on writing your personal statement. So I know this is a huge daunting task when it comes to doing the PA school application, but this is actually something that's really fun and a way that you can express yourself. So I wanted to go over some big do's and don'ts for writing the personal statement, as well as showing you like a theme that I use through mine. I'm going to show you some excerpts of mine. That way you can just get a good idea of some things that I chose to incorporate. I've been advised against releasing the whole personal statement, but I did want to kind of show you what I chose to do. First, before we get into it, definitely subscribe below. We're always doing the PA school videos. We also do a lot of other fun videos that relate to all things being a 20-something-year-old. And then definitely follow us on Instagram, because we do polls all the time that kind of let you guys choose what videos we have upcoming. And we also do a lot of like Q&A stuff on there. We engage with you guys in our DMs. So yeah, go ahead and follow us on Instagram. I'll leave it below. But yeah, let's get right into the video. So I'm sure that most of you know that the prompt for the personal statement is, why do you want to be a PA in 5,000 characters or less? This is pretty broad, and it leaves a lot of room for interpretation of how you want to approach this, whether you want to talk about an experience that you've had, what you love about the profession, a personal healthcare experience, something that happened to a family member, something that happened to you while you were working in healthcare, volunteering in healthcare, how you came to the profession. Something that you really want to do is to differentiate yourself from other applicants, whether that be through emotions you evoke in your reader, through humor that you use. Always be careful when using humor, because sometimes things don't come across as they're intended when they're being read, or any kind of unique elements that you incorporate into your personal statement. For example, I did use a theme in mine, so I'm going to kind of go over that and show you how I tied in a theme that would hopefully make my personal statement more memorable to the reader. I also did want to say that even though I am including excerpts of mine, no two personal statements should look anything alike. Everyone has come to this profession in a different way. Everyone loves different things about it. My best friend and I got into the same very small program, very reputable, good program with thousands of applicants with the most wildly different personal statements you could ever imagine. And both of our personal statements were loved by this program. So I just wanted to say that make your personal statement your own. I'm just trying to give you some good ideas of things that you could include, and also things that you definitely should not include. Do hook your reader in immediately, but make sure it's relevant. So I think it can be really effective to start with a story, but make sure that that story ties into the rest of the statement, and make sure that it makes sense. Don't just create a hook that has no purpose, right? Obviously you guys know that, but starting with a story can be a really effective way to hook your reader. Other people approach with maybe starting off with like a quote, like a famous quote. I personally think that's like a bit generic, but if you have something that you really love that you want to elaborate off of, I think that's fine, but try not to choose something that other people are going to be using in their statements. You have to remember that these people who are evaluating your application are reading thousands of these a day, and if you use the same kind of like quote or hook as another person, then you're not memorable. Definitely consider using your personal statement as a tool to highlight your strengths and show what you've learned through your experiences. You can also highlight some intrinsic traits that you have, even experiences that gave you qualities and built you that aren't related to healthcare, but that will then help you in healthcare. For example, I actually tied in a theme of dance throughout my personal statement. I talked about how my 16 years of dance training had uniquely prepared me to practice the art of medicine. I kind of tied that in with like the art of dance, and I think that's kind of a like different way to go about it, but it seemed to be effective because I did well in my application cycle. So yeah, and it showed them a little bit more about me. I'm not just someone who wants to go into medicine, right? There are other things that I love to do, and there are other qualities that are going to make me a good provider other than just solely my experiences that I've had working in healthcare. Do show why you want to be a PA specifically, but do not ever put down other healthcare professions. Everyone on a healthcare team is so important, and as a PA, you are going to be working with every single person in the healthcare team, from the lowest of lows to the highest of highs. Some people do like to think of healthcare in terms of a tier. I don't tend to think of it that way, but a lot of people do. But as a PA, you're going to be working with everyone, so never put down another healthcare profession. And also do not define what a PA does, especially like a Google definition. That is like, they already know what a PA does. Your reader knows what a PA does. You need to show them that you know what a PA does through your experiences, working alongside PAs, shadowing PAs, working in healthcare. Do not define a PA, because it's going to make it look like you actually don't know what a PA does and you had to Google it. Do show how you came to the profession. Did you have a personal healthcare experience? Was your family member sick and a PA is the one who took care of them the most, or took the time to explain to your family their medical diagnosis? Are you currently working with PAs in any sort of capacity, or have you worked with PAs? You might want to highlight some things that you really love about the profession, but don't highlight things like work-life balance. Like, that is going to be individual to every person in whatever specialty or whatever practice they choose to work in. It doesn't matter if you're a nurse, a PA, a nurse practitioner, a medical doctor. Your work-life balance is going to depend on your job, and it has nothing to do with whether you're a PA or a doctor or a nurse practitioner or nurse. Consider showing them what you love about medicine, but I wouldn't necessarily say, I love helping people. Like, something you really want to avoid is, ever since I was a child, I have loved helping people. Like, everyone in medicine kind of feels that way, and no one should actually be putting that in their personal statement because it's so generic, and that doesn't say anything about why you want to be a PA. That's a statement. Ever since I was a child, I love helping people. That doesn't say anything about why you want to be a PA. Do you find the pathophysiology of medical conditions to be super fascinating? Did you work in research? Do you love the way that learning medicine challenges you? Are you excited about being a lifelong learner because medicine is constantly evolving and changing, and you're going to be learning throughout your entire career? Do show how you go above and beyond in your work and volunteer experiences. How have you brought value to your organization or to your patients' lives, if that is applicable to you, of course. Did you seek out new experiences to broaden your healthcare knowledge? Did you do volunteer work that exposed you to different healthcare populations and helped you learn to work with all kinds of people? If you're a public servant, you are serving the whole public. So who all have you worked with? I, in my personal statement, highlighted all the experiences I had at UVA while working with people with physical and intellectual disabilities. I did Special Olympics. I did Special Olympics. I volunteered with Special Olympics. I volunteered with recreational therapy. I helped with yoga for kids with physical and intellectual disabilities at UVA Hospital's outpatient PT. Have you gone above and beyond in your work with different populations, and have you sought out work with different populations? So that being said, talk about your volunteer experiences and how they helped shape you and what you learned from them, as long as they pertain to the main point of your essay, which is why you want to be a PA, and how are these experiences going to help you be a better PA. The don't for that is, do not restate everything that is on your resume. Don't talk about the compensation. Yes, we know PAs make great money. That should not be why you want to be a PA. There are a million other reasons. Don't mention the compensation. I already said this, but don't state that you want to be a PA because you like helping people. We all like helping people going into this profession. You can illustrate that you like helping people through a story, but don't simply state, I want to be a PA because I like helping people. Including things like that are the type of personal statements that I feel kind of get thrown on the back burner. Like, maybe it'll be okay if your application is like otherwise stunning, but if you are counting on your personal statement to kind of make or break your application, something like I like helping people could kind of ruin that for you, I feel like. This might be a bit controversial, but I don't think that you should dwell on the weaknesses in your application in your personal statement. Maybe if you want to touch on the C that you got in Gen Chem 1, you can, but I got a C in Gen Chem 1 and retook it, and I did not touch on that in my personal statement. Maybe if there was like, if you had a really, really bad semester where you failed all of your classes because something traumatic happened to you, you could include a sentence or two about that and how you were able to get yourself back on track and excel later on. But a lot of schools will give you an opportunity to do that in the supplemental essays, and I just don't think that your personal statement is really a place for it. I wouldn't want to highlight anything negative personally, although maybe if I had had a bigger kind of, I don't know, bad semester or something, I might have been more willing to do that, but I didn't find it necessary. Some different approaches you can take to the personal statement are, well, for example, what I did was I did have the theme of dance kind of intertwined throughout it. But I also had like probably 3 body paragraphs of different things that led me to the profession. One of them was working in acute pediatrics, and a personal, like something that I witnessed there that really made me have like this moment of, oh, I want to be a PA. And then my second body paragraph was the other things I did to broaden my healthcare experiences and other volunteer opportunities that I sought out in medical assistant positions. And then the third paragraph was mostly about my experience as a medical assistant and what I loved about that, but how I wanted to get to a higher level of patient care and how I wanted to have a bigger say in the decision making. And then I also had a shorter paragraph towards the end that kind of tied dance back in, and the different things that I learned during dance about, you know, communication and body language that really uniquely prepared me to become a PA that I probably wouldn't have learned without dance. And then I really finished it out with just a short paragraph about how everything I've done so far has kind of been a culmination of my dedicated work up to applying to be a PA, and how I know that I am academically and socially prepared. That is just the approach that I took. My best friend, who actually had a very successful application cycle as well, I mentioned her earlier, we got into the same program, and I want to talk about how her personal statement was very different from mine, but also so good. And hers was very like emotion provoking. Like, I remember I was like reading it, we were editing each other's, and I was reading it with like tears in my eyes, but she talked about her upbringing and how that kind of led her to the PA profession, but hers were specific stories and instances in her life that led her to want to work in medicine and to be a healthcare provider. And she has gone through so much, and she was able to show that through her essay and give little examples of things that have happened throughout her life that really guided her to this profession. So that was, I didn't have that. I have been very blessed and fortunate. So reading hers was like, wow, you deserve this. Like, that is so amazing. I actually didn't decide to be a PA until my 3rd year of college or so, and so to have someone like her who has known since early high school that she wanted to be a PA, she had so many instances that really led her to the profession. I do think you should be very careful not to detail your life story, but to include those little moments that led up to it, I think was really impactful. And she was able to connect all these moments in her life up until now, and her like entering a PA program. I don't know, it was a great essay, but it was totally different than mine. So I just wanted to illustrate how 2 essays can be equally successful and totally different. Some other quick points I wanted to make are revise, but don't edit it too much to the point that you sound robotic. You still want to sound like yourself. You want to sound genuine. You want to be honest. Have a few people look it over, but don't get a million people to look it over. Too many opinions is just going to make you go crazy. So get like 3 people you trust to look it over, and then be done with it. You might rewrite it a million times, and that's okay, but make sure that you keep your voice and it stays genuine. I personally wish mine had been a bit shorter. I do think I over edited it a tiny bit because I'm kind of a perfectionist with those things. I wish I had left more of my personality in it. I'm a good writer, and I didn't need to rewrite it 20 times, but I did because it was really important to me. But looking back a year later, I think I could have left more of my own personality in it. Okay, so here are some of mine, just to get you a good idea of like what I wrote. The end of my first paragraph, like my introductory paragraph, was, truthfully, no single defining moment led me to the PA profession, but rather a combination of volunteer, clinical, and life experiences. So that kind of set up my body paragraphs, my volunteer experiences, my clinical experience, and then my life experience, which was kind of the dance theme that I tied in throughout the essay. The beginning of my first body paragraph, where I talk about my volunteer experience, it begins with, I began to fall in love with medicine while volunteering in the acute pediatric and intensive care units at UVA Hospital. It was there that I witnessed, and then I talked about something that I saw there, and I kind of juxtaposed it with something horrible that I saw there and something great that I saw there. So kind of like the levels of emotions that working in healthcare can make you feel, and how I saw someone's life being changed by medical care, and how I also saw someone's life end. So kind of evoking those emotions, but also showing like the different things that I've seen in healthcare, and things that really did draw me to the profession. My next paragraph started with, to gain exposure to other healthcare populations, I volunteered in multiple recreational therapy settings for adults and children with physical disabilities. I talked about some things I learned in those settings that is going to be carried into my career as a PA. I developed creative problem solving and conflict resolution techniques. I talked about some other things that I learned. I talked about how that has benefited me in my current role, and it has, which has been so cool to see. I said observing and assisting PAs in a clinical setting has given me a thorough understanding of their roles and routine work. I admired the broad scope of the PA education, as I have seen how crucial it is to have substantial knowledge of various medical specialties, especially when combating comorbidities. And I said, though I look forward to diagnosing and treating patients autonomously, I look forward to having a physician to collaborate with as a PA. So that was all out of order, but those are just some things I said to like demonstrate my knowledge of the profession rather than just state what a PA is. Then I had a paragraph about dance, and how it taught me a lot about human connection and how I can feel remnants of my training lurking in my interactions with patients. And that's just kind of tied in something different that admissions committees might associate me with, like, oh, that's the dancer, rather than oh, that's the girl who loves helping people and has wanted to be a PA since she was 3. Like, do you know what I mean? It's just something a little different. One sentence I have is, like dancers, PAs must extrapolate from the surrounding physical and emotional environment to facilitate a graceful interaction, would be the better word, between patient and provider. I used a French word from dance in that sentence. And then for my final paragraph, I wrote about how I'm seeking a greater role in patient care and how I feel socially, academically, and clinically prepared to enter PA school and eventually into the profession. I began it with, entering a PA program will be the culmination of my dedicated work thus far. Over the last several years, I've learned to adapt to a challenging academic environment to cope with a new sort of pressure and pace, and gained important clinical knowledge. I wrote about then how I was confident in my ability and how eager I am to learn and to expand my scope of practice. So yeah, that was what I wrote. Obviously everyone's essay is completely different. Like I said, my best friend, who also did very well, had a completely different essay, and she didn't write anything about that kind of stuff. Hers was more, I guess, like passionate and emotional, but really impactful. So but yeah, I hope this was helpful. Feel free to email me at 20somethingconfidential@gmail.com. I'll leave it right here. If you have any questions, I'd love to help. I definitely want to give back to this process. I know it's stressful, but it is so worth it. I'm so excited to start school. Actually have a little update because I might be changing what program I'm going to, because I was admitted into another one that I'm really excited about, which is really stressful, and I've been having such a hard time making a decision between these two programs, and I'm still currently working on it, but hopefully I'll have an update for y'all soon. Yeah, thank you for watching. I hope this was helpful. Let me know if you have any questions, and please subscribe. I can never say this word. I am going to bring in some excerpts